So if you're watching this video, there's a strong chance that you're in your 40s, or coming up to your 40s, or even older. You may feel a bit stuck, a little bit lost. You find you've got an itch, and I'm going to help you scratch that itch. Depending on where it is, of course. It's not that kind of channel. Only messing. I'm speaking about a metaphorical itch. And you've reached a place in your life now where a routine is taken over, and you've found yourself following a norm without even realizing it. This video is about breaking out, stepping away from expectations, and finding a new sense of purpose. So picture this. You're waiting for a lift. Or an elevator, depending on, what you want to call it, where you live in the world. I live in the UK. We majority of the time call it a lift. So we're going to stick with a lift. So you're waiting for a lift. It could be in a supermarket, could be in a multi-story car park, whatever. Just picture the lift itself. And there's a queue of people. So there's 6, 7, 8 people in front of you, couple of people behind you, and you're patiently waiting. Ding! The lift finally comes up. Everyone enters the lift. To your surprise, when you enter the lift, the people who entered before you are facing the opposite way that you'd expect. It's not one of those lifts where there's one way in and another way out. It's just one door where the buttons are. But to your surprise, as you walk in, everyone's facing the wall, the opposite way to the exit. On top of that, the people behind you in the queue, they also enter the lift and face the wrong way. So it all just seems a little bit off. You're facing the door where the buttons are in readiness for you to stop to leave the lift. But behind you, you can sense, you're looking like the odd one out. You're facing the wrong way. So the lift goes down to the next floor. Some people get off, some people get on. The people who get on, same again to your surprise, they face the wall. So now it's all looking a bit strange, like what on earth is going on in here? I'm in the Twilight Zone. Is it an alternative universe? You are now looking like the odd one out. You're facing the door. There's a bunch of people behind you facing the wall. What do you do? Well, this is actually a real experiment that's been conducted a number of times in a number of countries with actors entering the elevator with, real life members of the public, people like you and I. The actors, obviously the ones who are facing the wall. And what generally happens is the person who is perceived to be facing the right way will eventually give in to pressure. Not necessarily pressure brought on them by the other people in the lift, but an internal pressure to follow the norm. The outcome's been the same. The majority of the people turn around and follow the crowd. But why, when this clearly makes no sense? It's actually pretty ridiculous. It's pretty funny to see, but that's human behavior. That's reality. This experiment dated back from the 1960s up until now. And human behavior like this, it hasn't evolved, and it's super scary. So we're going to look at the psychology behind it, why we follow the crowd, and how you can break free from it. In most cases, it's down to social conformity. This is where people change their behaviors, their beliefs, their opinions to try and fit in with a crowd, a group, so they can feel a part of something and to avoid standing out. So there was this study called the Ashes line experiment. I'm probably butchering that, so forgive me. I believe it's Ashes, ASCHS line experiment. Basically, this experiment is where they got a group of people together, sat them at a table, and they give each member of the group 2 cards. So one card had a line on it, and the second card had 3 lines on it. The 3 lines were labelled A, B, and C on the second card, and one of those lines matched the line on the first card. So the task was relatively easy. Please state which line, because they're in different lengths, matches the first card. Is it A, B, or C? The answer was clearly C. However, 7 people in that group were paid actors, and they were told to state the answer was B. So now it comes to the 8th person, the real person. They can clearly see that the answer is C. You see? However, now they feel a little bit hesitant giving that answer, because as they look around, the other 7 people seem so confident that it's B. The surprising thing is that many participants went with the answer B, even though they knew it was clearly wrong. They did this because they wanted to fit into the group and not stand out. This is evolution. This is embedded in us. It's a survival instinct. So back in the caveman days, obviously being in a group is safe. Isolation, being on your own, danger. Your natural instincts and need to be part of something, whether it's a tribe, whether it's a group of people at a table who are given completely the wrong answer. And in this modern world, the level of pressure is unreal to fit in, whether that's school, in the workplace, social media. So in a sense, we all step into that invisible elevator. When we leave school, we're told we need to go to college or university. Then we get a job, work for somebody else. And then hopefully someday, we'll happen to be able to retire and afford to be able to live off retirement. We tend not to question this direction. We're just engineered to follow it. We assume this is the right path. This is what everybody else does. So when you sit down and really reflect on this expands into multiple areas. You can look at money and success. We buy things to fit in, to impress others. The flexing culture, whether it's a car, fancy tech, things that are not essential. But that's the psychology of it. We want to feel a part of something with opinions and beliefs. I think we can all relate to that. Whether it's in work meetings, you're in a meeting, the majority of the team agree with an opinion, but your opinion might be different. Are we scared to speak up? Are we scared to go against the norm? Or what do? We conform and we agree just to fit in, just to feel part of that group, just to be feeling accepted. The problem is when you always follow, when you conform, that's when you begin to lose yourself and you begin to lose your sense of direction. And before you know it, you've got to your 40s or older, and now you feel a little bit lost, a little bit stuck. We've all done it, but the question is, are you going to continue to do it? I've followed this path. I worked for an establishment for the best part of 20 years, and I got made redundant at 38, nearly 39 years of age. And don't get me wrong, I wasn't completely unhappy in my job, but it wasn't a path that I felt like, now I reflect on it, that I chose. And it wasn't until I got made redundant that I really took the time to reflect about my career and my path. And I came to the realization that it was more like I was programmed to do this path. It didn't feel like free will. It sounds a bit crazy to say, but I started a role with the company. And after a period of time, generally you just get good at it, repeating it day in, day out. The natural progression was to move to the next role, repeat, get good at it, move to the next role. And before you know it, nearly 20 years have gone. And I was in this automated mode. It felt like this was the natural progression. This was the pressure. This is what we're kind of programmed to do. This is the path. This is how you're socially accepted by your title, your job role. The thing is, I'm not going to be able to change your path for you. That's solely down to you and the decisions that you make from today. All I can do is share my experience of being a part of the big hamster wheel. And what I'm trying to do in my 40s is not fall into that trap of conforming to the so-called norm. But what I can do is encourage you to be more aware, take more time with the decisions that you make. Are these decisions that you make are what are going to truly make you happy? But if you are watching this video, and certainly if you've made it this far, you are feeling the pain and the strain of going down a path that someone else has designed for you, and you want to do something about it, you need to be more aware of your surroundings, aware of the people you spend the majority of time with, aware of the decisions that you make. And you'll see it. There's patterns between every human being, and they're kind of living the same life, just with different personalities. Only then will you notice, are you turning into the crowd? What I do know, this is something that you're not going to be able to change overnight. It starts with small acts of courage. Learn to say no in certain situations. If it's against your beliefs, if you know deep down that's not the right thing to do. And don't be afraid to express a different opinion. Ask questions. If you're in that lift, why have you turned around? Why are you facing that way? To try and get a better understanding of that behavior. And you can learn from it. Why did you conform to the group? Where did that pressure come from to pick B when you knew deep down it's incorrect? What do you think the consequences would be if you pick C and went against the grain? What happens if you stand out and you be yourself? Only when asking them questions, whether it's internally and you're just asking yourself those questions, or you've got the courage not to get into conflict, but just to express and opinionate and discuss and debate the system, what we're programmed to do. Only then are you going to get true answers to be able to build and grow and move forward and try something new. The old cliche of stepping out your comfort zone, completely true. Whether it's you want to start a YouTube channel, you might have a side hustle in mind, there might be a hobby that you've always wanted to get involved in, but it's against the program, it's against the norm. But only you can make those decisions. To find true happiness, you might need to turn the other way. You might need to go against the majority, and it might feel uncomfortable at first, but that's how you find yourself. So the only practical takeaways that I can really give, like I mentioned earlier, it's going to be solely down to you. You need to be more hyper aware of the decisions that you make. Are you copying someone else's path? Or did you make that decision solely for yourself or for the people around you, the closest to you? Awareness is the first step. You can't change what you don't notice. Try committing to doing one thing different each week. It could be something as simple as sitting somewhere new. So in a meeting, if you always sit in a specific seat, try a different seat, freshen it up. Take a different route to work. Wear something different from the norm, because we just get used to those daily habits, daily routines. It sounds a bit stupid, but those small acts of defiance help build confidence and making independent choices. Speak up once a day. If you have opinion, say it. Even if it's different to what everyone else is thinking or what everyone else is saying. It's not about arguing. It's not about starting a conflict. It's just about knowing that your voice matters. This helps build your own authenticity, and it helps reduce the fear of judgment. And something I've done personally is make a list. Make a list of some things that you want to do or that you love to do. And then make a separate list of what's expected of you, whether it's you're an adult, you're a parent, you have responsibilities. And then we can kind of try and balance that list, because you can't just get rid of all of that. I ain't doing that and quit my job and whatever. We have put ourselves in a position where we may have to work to pay the bills, to feed our family. But it's all about balance as well. How can you fit in the list or things off the list of the stuff that you want to do, that you'd love to do, into a world where you've got the list of things that you have to do, that's expected of you. So next time you find yourself turning with everybody else, maybe face your own way, and you might just inspire someone else to turn around too. My name's Kul. Thanks for watching. I'm out of here. See you at the next one.